Hello, and thank you for listening to RENEWables, a podcast by BioStar, which aims to explore the current and future energy landscape in America.
Welcome back to another episode of RENEWables. We're very excited to have Bobby Sight with Rob Sight Ford on the podcast today. And Bobby and I have been very good friends, best friends for a long time since we were little kids. And Bobby has taken over a lot of the operations at his family's Ford dealership, which has been around for a long time. We're going to get into how automotive dealers and automotive businesses are having to renew in order to stay relevant as more and more vehicles go electric. And we're going to talk about some of the new Ford lineup and new electric fleet. So really appreciate you coming on, Bobby. Welcome to RENEWables.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. As a longtime friend, been following the podcast, and I'm happy to sit on here and discuss with you because Ford has some great sustainability and renewable energy things coming up in the future. So it's good timing.
Awesome. Well, I want to start with you and with your dealership and just sort of how, tell us a little bit about Rob Sight Ford and your family's business history and how long you've been serving the Kansas City Metro and the Midwest as a Ford dealer.
Well, yeah, as you said, we've been in the car business. Pretty crazy. I'm a fourth generation car dealer here in Kansas City. So we started in 1923 on Linwood and Gillum, for people who know Kansas City, down close to downtown Kansas City, as a Chevy dealer. Became a Lincoln Mercury and a Ford dealer at a later date, and been in business for 98 years, which is pretty incredible. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, I feel pretty lucky to be a part of this community, and definitely have grown a great name and a great brand here in town.
That's great. I didn't know that you started as a Chevy dealer, actually, and it makes sense that you weren't always at 135th Street, because I think back then 135th Street was farmland. So that's great.
I think that was the case about 15 years ago, even. So this city's growing like crazy.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, really appreciate you coming on. I want to start with the overall Ford brand, and from a sustainability standpoint, Ford has set some really lofty sustainability goals and is really taking this transition to electric vehicles quite seriously, it seems. So let's talk a little bit about Ford and their sustainability goals and how that impacts you as a dealer.
Well, I'll say, first of all, like Ford as a company, I'm very, very proud to be a Ford dealer. I think that Ford overall has just done a tremendous job with their product line and ramping up technology, which it leads into sustainability. And I think there's two sides to sustainability when it comes to Ford. I mean, it's their manufacturing process, and it's also what they're doing for the consumer from a overall product standpoint, i.e. EVs. I guess, first of all, I think manufacturing, Ford has set some incredibly lofty goals when it comes to sustainability. I mean, I know that they, going back to some dealer meetings, they put a tremendous amount of focus on energy, air, materials, climate change, and even human rights. But one of the coolest things about Ford is, they have, from a manufacturing standpoint, set a hard date, and they plan by 2023 to operate all manufacturing plants with 100% renewable energy. So
wow,
that kind of fits right into your wheelhouse, whether that's solar, wind power, or anything like that. That's a tremendous step forward for our environment. And then also, from a climate change standpoint, they do aim to be carbon neutral by 2050. That's not a hard date, but obviously those are some lofty goals, and it feels like a long time from now, but as we all know, time has gone by quite quickly, so it will continue to do so.
Yeah, well, they make a lot of cars and they have a lot of locations. So, 2050 is probably realistic. And we're seeing some corporations and businesses that are really, really big set 2030 and 2040 RE100 goals. That's definitely something that we obviously follow really closely as we want to partner with organizations that are really purpose driven and really focused on sustainability and ESG. So talk to me a little bit about how that sort of trickles down to the dealer level and what types of changes are you making? I can see in the reflection there some LED lighting fixtures. So
Yeah,
I know that was
absolutely.
low hanging fruit a long time ago. But talk to us a little bit about kind of how at the dealer level you're making changes, whether it be operationally or from a marketing standpoint, to sort of renew your business and focus on sustainability and net zero carbon, if you will.
Right. Yeah. So, as you said, I mean, yeah, we've made, whatever product we can kind of go forward with. And you were one of the ones who turned me on to LED lighting, which was some time ago. I mean, I'd such a look back. I mean, that's almost like 5 or 6 years ago.
You were an early adopter.
I know. So, and obviously, the city and the state and federal level, they've all, assisted us in, giving us credits to be able to move towards a sustainable energy source, sustainable whatever, production within our dealership. So, I mean, lighting's been a huge thing for us. I guess from the dealership standpoint, we're actually currently installing charging stations here at the dealership for
Nice.
our EVs that are coming out. And that's something that obviously Ford is making a huge push for their EV market. And if you really want to play in the market in the EV game, you have to be able to provide the resources to do it here. So
Sure.
We're ramping up from a structural or a infrastructure standpoint here at the dealership to be able to provide those type of vehicles and push them at a larger volume. And from an energy standpoint, obviously it has an effect in two different ways for us. I mean, obviously there's a cost effect from an expense structure to save money here. And we've been able to do so with renewable energy, but also to be able to provide business to be able to sell EV type vehicles.
Sure. Well, that's a great transition into the electric vehicle space. And obviously we couldn't have this conversation without talking about all the different EVs that are coming out. Ford has just in the last year or so, I think, announced 2 or 3 new ones. Of course, the F-150 comes to mind, the number one selling vehicle in the United States. And they've released an all-electric version of that. Has that hit the lot yet, or are you still waiting on those?
So we have some on the immediate horizon. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E will be coming out here in the next almost less than 2 months. We've put the orders in for them, and that's a really exciting car, something that's completely different from what Ford has done in the past or really even provided, let alone any manufacturer outside of Tesla.
Sure. Let's stay on the Mach-E for a second.
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
a performance standpoint, because there's nothing more classic there's nothing that describes American muscle better than the Ford Mustang, right? So from a performance standpoint, how does the Mach-E compare to the traditional Mustang counterpart?
Well, I'd have to say, the name is the same, but the performance is completely different. The concept behind it is similar. You want high performance, high speed, you want performance capability.
Sure.
And they were able to do that with the Mach-E, but the overall numbers behind it and the way that it performs is completely different. You're looking at a electric Ford Mach-E Mustang that is going 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Now with a gas motor, that is not even remotely possible, no matter how expensive a car you're driving.
Sure.
And but they do want to give it the drivability and the feel of the classic Mustang with like an updated vibe and a fresher piece of technology that's really never been experienced in a Ford before.
That's really cool. I know these Teslas and some of these other EVs that have come out are just insanely fast. They don't have the same top speed as some of their gas guzzling counterparts, but they're extremely fast and have an unbelievable amount of torque. So I very much look forward to when you get the Mach-E in, and I'm going to come out there and twist your arm, and hopefully you'll trust me enough to take it for a test drive.
Well, I was going to say, in regards to the Mach-E, it's not for each person. It's not always about performance too. So Ford has also diversified within that line the ability for affordability, as well as, you know, overall just like environmentally and energy like savings forward. I mean, so you have cars that are, you know, not made for speed necessarily, but are made for, you know, just the everyday driver as well. And
Sure.
It kind of gives you that same look.
So I know I want to talk about the all-electric F-150 because that's just such an important part of your lineup. I think you also, I saw something about the Escape, which I know is a good selling vehicle for you all. So yeah, let's dive into some of those other vehicles that are kind of on the horizon.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we have hybrids available for pretty much for each model line and each model line coming up going forward. So we currently have the Escape hybrid, and we will also go into coming out here in the next year and a half. We'll have a plug-in hybrid for the Escape, as well as just a full plug-in EV vehicle Escape.
Right.
So an all-electric Escape, and then obviously the F-150, which is the big ticket item that there's a lot of buzz about and a lot of competition for too. I mean, against Tesla and their Cybertruck. But the F-150, obviously, number one selling truck on the road. I mean, I'm sure you see that on commercials all the time.
Yeah.
And there's people who really, you know, love the American truck and the look of it, but are starting to get with the times, and also starting to see that, you know, Ford's coming out with these performance numbers that, hey, these electric trucks can tow as much, actually more than gas vehicles. It is going to be a game changer for us. Well, I wouldn't say a game changer because we're already kind of at the top of the market. It's going to be a sustainable resource for us to plant ourselves there and stay there for the decades to come.
Sure. And I think I technically said Tesla first, but you brought up Tesla, and so I have to go there because they have a really interesting model, and it's really different than sort of the traditional dealer model. You're seeing showrooms that are, you know, 800 or 1,400 square feet in malls and in shopping districts, and you go in, you buy your car on a computer. So from a dealer perspective, do you envision any big changes? Is that something that would happen soon, or do you see that happening more down the road? I mean, you have a gorgeous dealership out there and a lot of land and a lot of parking there. So I'm just curious if you think that model will end up sort of transitioning into other brands, or do you think that's unique to Tesla? And then talk to me a little bit just about how, you know, the buzz around Tesla, and they're coming out with a truck, they've got SUVs now. How does that change and perhaps accelerate these other car brands into the EV market?
So you are right. I mean, Tesla has been, I'd say Tesla is a good product. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, they've done a great job with their car. Their software system is terrific. And you're right, the buying model is terrific. It's easy for the consumer. And I'm not going to say that, I would say that it honestly is already, it started in a direction that the automotive industry is already going. And it already was going before Tesla. You know, I mean, it wasn't Tesla that changed that model of just being able to shop online and just pick out your car. It was Amazon that really did that. And having the ease of buying purchase process. Now, while you're not dealing with a specific dealer with Tesla, you're just dealing with the manufacturer. You're still dealing with a showroom. You're still dealing with sales and service centers, and you know, you physically still have to be able to pick up the car. I mean, I'm sure they provide remote delivery as we do too, but with Ford's ordering system, as we continue to move into it, especially with these newer vehicles. I mean, look at the Bronco, not electric, but In the Bronco, Mustang, Machi, the new vehicles that are coming out, you are moving towards an online process. The customer is selecting what they want to do. They have the ability to purchase online if they like to, but they also have the ability to buy in the dealership, because there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to buying a truck. Sometimes it's not as simple. It's more difficult for others than it is some. There are a lot of moving parts there. And at the end of the day, one computer cannot finalize that process completely. So you still need people. I think that it's interesting. I mean, people are ordering Broncos online by just clicking, and then they reserve it. And then the Mach-E it's a fully online purchase. And I have no problem with it. It's up to the consumer where they purchase it from and where they pick it up from.
Probably makes your life a little easier, right? Because ultimately they kind of submit an order and you can see all the specs. I drive a Ford Explorer that I bought from you all several years ago, and it was super easy. I basically built the car online and emailed it to you and said, order this. And I was very happy that you were running 0% financing at the time, or I probably wouldn't have bought a brand new car.
Well, I was happy to sell it to you, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you want the consumer to pick what they want, and sure. And it's a lot easier to get things right, and it's a lot better process for them knowing that they did it themselves. And so I certainly welcomed it. I've always personally welcomed it. I'm not going to say that the old time car guys are always huge fans of it, as they kind of want people on the showroom and they want to kind of control it. It's not up for us in moving forward in the automotive industry. It's not up for the dealer to control the sales process. It's up for the consumer to do that, and you need to let them do that.
So let's talk about online shopping a little bit further. In the used car business, or even in the new car business, mm-hmm. When folks walk in your door, do they already know what they're going to buy? Or are they just looking kind of around the lot to figure it out? What does that process typically look like?
So, I mean, I have to say that it's got to be at least 90%. I mean, people know exactly what they're looking for once they come in here. Yep. Every time somebody comes in and they're just kind of wanting it, they don't really know what they're doing, or they just want to kind of kick tires. It's like, we're welcome. We're here to do that. That's our job. But it is baffling to me. And I just don't think that, I mean, I know for a fact that the overwhelmingly majority of buyers in today's market have already picked out what they want. They know what they want. And they're going to do research as far as price and reputation. And that will ultimately drive you, as well as having the right inventory. I mean, you have to stock the right stuff to be able to get people onto your lot. But they'll find the car, they'll find the price, and then they'll find the place they want to buy it.
Sure. I know right now with the pandemic, I've heard a lot of buzz just about a lot of used car sales and the lack of good used car inventory. Has that been affecting your business?
Yeah, I mean, inventory on both sides of the equation has been like one of the most bizarre, experiences ever. I mean, it's, we always feel like we have too many cars on our lot. And then we got to a day when manufacturing plants shut down that drove new car inventories super low. And then after that, people were trying to scoop up as many used cars as they could after that. And so we ran short on both sides of it. And the used car market has been crazy. We've had, due to a higher demand than we have supply. I mean, it's driven up our wholesale prices, like our auction prices for our used cars. Sure. And ultimately, it trickles down to the consumer. It hasn't been horrible. But basically, at the end of the day, whatever we've been able to get on our lot, we've been able to sell. And that's something that, we're definitely not mad at, considering we're in the middle of a
good problem to have.
Yeah, happy to have people buying cars, but it's important. I mean, I think that in the middle of, just going off on a tangent here, during the middle of a pandemic, there's nothing that's been more important to people than their personal space. And you have a lot of people who would be doing a lot of other things, but they're not spending money on those, and they want to invest in something that they spend a lot of time in. And I think a car is one of those things amongst a home.
Absolutely. It makes a ton of sense. Now, I'm going to let you shamelessly plug your sales process, because I really appreciate it. You have no hassle pricing. Talk to me about your no hassle pricing and the benefits of that, both on the buy and the sell side.
Yeah, so we are a one price store. We switched to that several years ago. And honestly, when growing up in the business, selling cars, the one thing that I hated more than anything was not being transparent with our customer. And I hated a long drawn out buying process. I didn't think it should be frustrating for the customer, nor did I think it should be frustrating for the car salesman or the dealer or the manager or anybody involved in the business. At the end of the day, you just want to provide a fair price, and you use data to do it. There's tools out there that can allow you to look at your market, price according to your market, price to where it's a not a good deal, a great deal for the consumer. Yep. And that's why I think most of our business is driven by people who already know what they want, because we target towards a highly researched or a highly informed buyer. And at the end of the day, it's the price online is the price you pay, and you can come in and you can do that, and you can walk out of here and make it easy and hopefully enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember buying my first car when I was 16, and I am just kind of a sales dork, and I enjoyed that process and that negotiating process. But certainly as I've gotten older and time is of the essence, the last thing I think you want to do as a consumer or a salesperson is go and have this sort of back and forth haggling over price. So I think that's one thing that I really like about your dealership, and I think sets you apart from a lot of your competition, is that no hassle pricing. And I've always admired that. I want to come back to EVs real quick, and then I want to move on to some legislation and that side of what you're doing. Are you feeling a demand for EVs? I mean, is Ford doing this because their competition is doing it and they feel like they have to, or do you feel that demand for more electric, more sustainable vehicles? I mean, and I guess a follow on to that question is, how many electric vehicles, I don't expect you to know the number exactly off the top of your head, but how many EVs do you have on your used lot, and do you sell a lot of them?
So to answer the first part of that question, Ford is not doing it to keep up with their competition. I mean, the only other competition that is really significant out there is Tesla. As far as overall car manufacturers outside of Tesla, Ford is way ahead of the game. They've invested the most into it up front. I think that they're doing it because they do want to provide sustainability for globally. But there is going to be a tremendous market for it as our overall national infrastructure builds to provide, the energy resources to do so. Currently, right now, today, we've got about 3 fully electric vehicles on our lot, pre-owned. Obviously, we haven't gotten our brand new ones in quite yet. Not a huge market yet, but like I said, our infrastructure is growing, and Ford is helping nationally to build the charging resource network in order to do so.
Sure. Well, and I think that market matures as the cars become more affordable, and
Right.
Tesla, for example, is a premium product. You've even got Nikola coming out with these trucks, which appear to be a premium product. And there's some other competition to Tesla that they're all pretty high dollar cars. So I think as that market matures and you see cars like the Escape that are coming out, I think, just from my perspective, and I certainly haven't done a ton of research on this, but at the end of the day, I don't think we're to a point yet where people are going to pay a big premium just because it's electric. They need the performance to be there, the price to be there, and everything like that. So that's really interesting. And back to you mentioned the infrastructure, which is something that we're paying a lot of attention to at BioStar. We've actually had some really interesting opportunities to finance big, not fleets, but big, portfolios of charging stations, which I think is super interesting. And one thing I also think is interesting is that I don't think the Love's truck stops of the world are necessarily going to dominate that EV charging market, because I can imagine a world where let's talk electric semis for a second, and Tesla's coming out with an electric semi. Well, if it takes 40 minutes to get in line to charge that electric semi up, that's lost money for the driver and for the transportation company, right? So I think we're going to see a lot more niche, specialized network of charging stations, which I think is pretty interesting to think about. Living in Kansas, I think of the grain routes and the lanes that these trucks run every day, the same places over and over and over again. And ultimately, it costs $250, $300 to charge that semi truck up with diesel fuel, or to fill it up with diesel. It might cost $80 to fill it up and charge it on an electric vehicle charging station. But if it takes you an hour or an hour and a half to get it charged, I think that trucker would rather pay the $250 and be out of there in 20, 30 minutes. So I think that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that infrastructure continues to develop, not just in personal vehicles, but especially interesting in the fleet vehicles. Do you think Ford, there'll be a day where they'll make an electric semi or big electric commercial vehicle?
I would 100% expect it. I mean, being at Ford dealer meetings, private dealer meetings, they've made a lot of effort towards the commercial side of things, and they're continuing to develop upon those. I would imagine that, I know that technology has developed rapidly for us over our lifetime, just in many different ways. And, if you fast forward the clock 10 years, 20 years, I mean, better than I do, but, when it comes to charging and providing energy into these vehicles, I would imagine that'll rapidly improve. And Ford, a huge part of their business lies on the commercial side too. I mean, Ford's not just daily cars you see on the road. It's the fleets, it's the work trucks, it's the large trucks. And they definitely have plans in place, and they have their ducks in a row. I mean, they're pretty well organized, well-oiled machine up there in Detroit. Yep.
Awesome. Well, last question on EVs. Do you sell an EV charger when you sell an electric car? Or I guess right now you don't have them on the lot yet, but is there a Ford kind of branded EV charging station that'll come with these cars?
There is. Yeah, there's one that you'll be able to put into your home, which is made specifically for your Ford. Each new vehicle will come with that, and you will be able to charge at home, as well as charge across thousands and thousands of charging stations within Ford's network.
Really cool. Okay, I want to switch over to legislative side of things, because you have a really impressive carrot on your resume, being involved with the National Automotive Dealers Association, NADA, really substantial lobbying group. And I want to hear about your involvement there and what that looks like.
So it's really cool. I mean, I'm very, very, very lucky to have gotten involved with such an incredible association. NADA, National Auto Dealers Association, covers every franchise dealer across the country, U.S., Mexico, and Canada. The entire goal, or the point of the association, is to work on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and to advocate for the best interests of automobile dealers automobile dealers across the country, and in their communities as well. So I've had a lot of great experiences lobbying on Capitol Hill, advocating for the industry, and also learning a lot from lawmakers as far as what they need us to do to help better our communities and better our country.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's I have a passion for politics and spent a little bit of time in Washington, D.C., and it's been great to get to see you kind of get a flavor of that and really do something that I think probably pays dividends for you and other dealers in ways that, it's hard to imagine without kind of getting that firsthand knowledge and experience of how that legislation ultimately impacts businesses across the country. And there's a lot of automotive dealerships across the country and in North America. And I think, what did you tell me? The NADA is the top 5 largest lobbying group?
Yeah, so NADA is the fourth largest political action committee, so PAC, in the United States. And, ultimately, I think one of the craziest things when you really think about it is that the automotive industry, makes up for over 450,000 jobs in the state of Missouri, which is like crazy. And then also, a couple million nationwide. So it's not just in the best interest of myself and from a business standpoint. Is we comprise a lot of jobs and we want to keep them here in the United States, and we want to keep our middle class, our working class, filled up with work. So, it takes, so we're backing a lot of people with our interests to represent a lot of people.
That's great. Well, we're kind of wrapping up here. I want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody, how do they come find Rob Sight Ford? Where do they go, online or in person? And the other thing I want to know, beyond how to find you on social media or the internet or in person, is what electric vehicle am I going to see Bobby racing down State Line Road on first? Is it going to be the truck? Is it going to be the Machi? What's going to be first?
Okay, so what's going to be first is it'll be the Machi, because that's what I'm going to get first. Okay. At the end of the day, if I'm going to take my pick amongst all the EVs that are going to be out there with Ford, I'm a truck guy, so I can't really hide behind that. And this new all electric F-150 is going to be incredible. I couldn't be any more excited about it. And not only is it going to be sustainable and great for from a cost standpoint as far as energy goes, but it's going to look so cool in the technology behind it. It's going to be so amazing. So,
yeah, it's a good looking truck. I love that video of the Tesla and Ford pulling on each other.
Battling it out,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, that's great. And there's a lot of power in those electric vehicles and trucks. So hopefully we'll get a BioStar one that's wrapped in solar panels or something that I can drive around the city.
Be proud to do that. But yeah, if you are trying to find me, so if you're trying to find me, our website, robsightford.com or just robsight.com, either way works. We also have a great Facebook page, a great Instagram. We do a lot of fun stuff on there. We're pretty progressive in what we put up, and marketing goes. We like to have fun, but also take things seriously. So you can look us up on that. And if you're in Kansas City, we're located in South Kansas City, like 135th and State Line, Martin City, Leawood area. I'm here. So, you can come find me there personally.
Awesome. I love what you're doing from a branding standpoint. There's been a lot of fun videos out on Instagram and Facebook lately. So those have been really fun to watch. I think you're doing a great job of getting your brand out there, having fun with it. But at the same time, being a reliable dealer for your customers and for the city. So, Bobby, thank you very much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you sell a couple more cars before the weekend here.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm really proud to have been on here, and I will join you any other time.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Mm-hmm.